Hi everyone, I'm Ryoko, a resident of the Animator Dormitory. We here at Animator Supporters are currently making an original music video in an attempt to raise animators' low wages. Right now, dormitory residents, including myself and other seasoned animators, are starting work on key animation. I gather that many of you may be curious about what people do when making an anime, so I'll try and briefly illustrate the real work that goes into production. I'll also explain some jargon that we use on the job. In this video, we'll be continuing from where we left off in part 1 and learning more about storyboard terminology. I'll be touching on some technical topics, but I'll try to keep it as simple as possible so those who are uninitiated can still understand. If you have an interest in animation or anime production, definitely watch till the end. Storyboards use a variety of technical terms. If I were to tell you about all of them, then this video would be hours long. So for now, I'll be sticking to terms used in the making of our music video, explaining them as we look at the actual storyboard. Looking at the storyboard, you may notice some unfamiliar words and letter combinations in the togaki, or scene descriptions. These are technical terms we use to easily convey to artists the sort of imagery and screen behavior we want to create. For example, the very start of cut number 1 reads FI. This is an abbreviation for fade in. As you can see from the footage, it expresses a gentle, gradual emergence of the image. Here we see the term AC. This is short for action cut. This tells us to make that cut feel like it's linked to its previous cut. We use this to indicate that certain actions should feel connected, as opposed to joining the actions exactly. By splitting cuts, we can freely express how much time has elapsed in the footage from one cut to the next. When we write AC, we want to make it seem like the time between cuts is connected seamlessly. Here we see a word called SP. This is an abbreviation for same position and can be thought of as keeping a camera in the same place on a film set. We don't have actual cameras in anime though, just drawings. So to put it simply, let's say that it means to share a background. If the camera is in the same position, the background will be the same, right? For example, in cut 39 here, it says 032SP. And if you compare it to cut 32, you will see that the background is indeed the same. Any cut with an SP means that, to a certain extent, we can reuse its background, recycling things that were drawn in other cuts, like characters and objects. By reusing as much material as possible, directors can save time and money that they can allocate towards important or flashy captivating scenes. Being resourceful is another part of their job. I mentioned budgets, but the SP in this cut is here simply because we thought that, as a film, it would be more impactful from a direction standpoint to use this position here. Please understand that we don't always use SP for budget reasons. Next up, we have gradual TB here. This is an abbreviation for a gradual or steady trackback. Explaining the differences between tracking up and tracking back on a film set versus in animation would take an extremely long time. But as a quick rundown, trackback as it's used in anime simply expresses a contracting motion. In the days of analog film, when people actually shot with a camera, the term trackback was used to say that the camera was really traveling backward. But today, all that film work is done digitally. So it's not the position of a camera, but the gradual reduction of the image's size that's being displayed to simulate a camera moving further and further away. Basically, when the screen is shrinking, that's called trackback. And when it's expanding, that's a track up, or TU. The down pan written here means to pan downward. Pan means to slide the camera in a specific direction. So in animation terms, this means sliding the image upward digitally. By moving an object upwards in the frame, you can sell the idea that the camera is moving downward. Those on a live-action set say pan to describe camera motion in the left or right directions. So from their perspective, panning downward may seem like a pointless term. We think of panning differently in animation, though. In animation, panning can be used to describe motion in any direction. The term OL also comes up a few times, like OL to next cut and OL from last cut. OL is short for overlap. It might be easier to understand by using editing terms and calling it a crossfade. As you can see from the image, it means to transition to the next cut by overlapping them. Under this OL signifier, you'll see something like plus X frames written in parentheses. This is a shaku, or timescale, that tells us how to lightly apply an overlap onto the frame. Next, let's take a look at the follow here. This implies that the camera should follow the subject being filmed as if the camera is moving at the same speed as the subject. As I've said many times, this is anime, so there is no camera. However, in terms of this cut, the hair of the character in the foreground is swaying as they look up, and the background is sliding parallel to the motion of the character to express movement. Finally, we have FO, which stands for fade out. As you can see, it causes the image to gently fade away, the opposite of a fade in, the first term we learned in the video. The background of this image is a greenish matte color, and the image fades out towards that background, so here it fades with a greenish hue. Typically, though, when we say fade out, we often mean a fade to black. When the image fades to white, it is sometimes called a whiteout, or WO to distinguish it from a fade out. We use the fade in at the beginning of this piece, but when the image appears from a pure white background, we often call it a white in, or WI. In this video, we introduced some storyboard terminology with example images from our own film storyboard. Of course, there are many more terms than the ones we mentioned here. For the sake of time, I can't explain all of them, but it might interest you to look up terminology you see in storyboard collections or other reference material. So, what do you think? I hope this helps any of you who are interested in anime production or art. Also, if there's anything that you don't understand or would like to understand further about anime production or this video, please leave a comment below. Thank you very much for watching until the end. We're currently holding a crowdfunding campaign for this project. For details about our campaign, please visit the link in the video description.